the hardest money that has ever been invented.
I also made the case for owning Bitcoin, the quintessence of scarcity premium. It's literally the only large tradable asset in the world that has a known fixed maximum supply. By its design, the total quantity of Bitcoins cannot exceed 21 million.
Bitcoin is the hardest money that has ever been invented.
If you don't have my private key, you cannot spend my Bitcoin, period. And this is the power of Bitcoin.
It's the first time we figured out how to create true property that you can take possession of with full custodial rights.
Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits. Kevin and I are back here for another, hopefully, thoughtful conversation.
Yo.
On various things. What's up,
Yes,
Kev?
sir.
Yeah.
Doing great. Life is great.
We missed the halving episode, man.
We did miss the halving episode. I really wanted to have one because I really wanted to have one, but yeah, things just didn't line up quite right. You know, the eclipse happened and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Oh, you let the eclipse stop you from recording, bro?
I can't even use that as an excuse because it was like 6 days difference. I
couldn't go outside for 3 weeks because the eclipse came.
there was just a lot going on here locally, and I think you know, personal stuff. I had some things to do on the weekend that required, you know, getting home and just being around family and stuff. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about the halving and how cool of it is that it's a non-event, but it's still a huge event. And this year it was a bigger event than ever in terms of like all of the I guess like the culture around it. Like everybody started wanting to have a halving party. You know, there was one in El Salvador that, you know, BitBlock Boom rearranged its, you know, everything to try to line up with the halving. There was a halving brunch in town on Saturday. Yeah. I mean, there was like all Sunday, kinds of, was it Sunday?
I think it was Sunday. Yeah.
Whatever.
You can tell both of us didn't go. We didn't go. Lame us. Well, all right, I actually want to get into this halving talk real quick. Yeah. But before we get into that, let's remind the listeners how you can actually support the show. As you guys have known since, I was going to say the very beginning, but not the very beginning. Since Podcasting 2.0, you guys could definitely listen in, boost, stream. The last episode with Tom, which was a fantastic episode in my opinion. We had a feature from Shane a little bit later on, and we went over Tom's article. We got some streamers there. No actual boost, so nobody commented. Maybe because they were just wowed by how great Tom's writing was. But yeah, we appreciate the streamers. We appreciate the boosters just the same. Nobody to call out in this episode, but if you want to be called out, if you got a question, if you got a topic, or if you just want to start some shit with me mainly, because I know Kevin, maybe Kevin's going to start some shit with people. If you just want to pick on me and hear me go after you, then you can also drop a boost and say some foul shit.
You wait for the dead of summer for me to start picking fights.
There you go. We get
the heat, you know.
The heat gets you?
I love the heat. For personally, like I grew up in Texas, and so like I'm just used to it. And so when it's like 110 degrees outside, I'm like riding my motorcycle, and I'm just loving it because it's great. Yeah. And then like, you know, everyone you talk to is just miserable, and I just kind of, I don't know. It just seems like it's like time to have animosity or something. I don't know.
So Kevin wants the heat and I want the smoke. So bring it if you want to bring it. If you got nothing nice to say, bring the bad stuff. We accept them stats either way. And we'll even pay you some stats to fight you back. How about that?
That sounds good. That's good engagement.
Yeah. That's pretty much what the internet is nowadays anyways. Just people fighting for no damn reason whatsoever. But yeah,
so let's fight over the halving.
Yeah. Yeah, the halving. So I actually, and this is where like I'm bad with memory and bad with time. So I actually thought this was my second halving, but I think it was my first one.
Really? So where were you in 2020?
I think I came in after the halving. Back again, because remember my story is I was 2017 into shitcoins and Bitcoin.
Same.
Lost a shitload of money. Same. And then just left everything. I was like, I'm good with this cryptocurrency stuff. Left everything. And then it wasn't until about July 2020 that I guess started getting back in and started hearing a little bit of Sailor and started getting into that. And then I think it was like in October-ish where I got my first taste of Dirt GG or GG. I always say Dirt GG, but GG, and that's when I was like, oh, this thing is much bigger than just cryptocurrency. Yeah. This is, you know, everything we talk about here on the show. So I thought that, the reason I say that is because when this halving was coming in, I was kind of like, been there, done that. Like, I'm good.
Even though you hadn't.
Right. And then
when you check the tape, when you check the receipts.
As it started getting closer, and like you said, people started throwing like parties and stuff, I was like, at first I was like overrated. Like I'm good. I had some family things. I actually had my parents in town, but I was like, I'm good. Like I've been there. Yeah, leave that for the new ones. And then the day before, I was like, I wasn't there for the last one.
You just had the epiphany. It just hit you. It was like, this is my first having.
Yeah, and then by then I was like, all right, I guess I'm just too late. So I'll see you in 4 years, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the funny part is that like something you just said, which is like, should it be a spectacle? I kind of think this is like...
Well, you definitely want to like just double check that the protocol is still working right. Right. So like, all eyes on block 840,000.
But do I need to like... it's always good to be around Bitcoiners. So like I'm going to sound like the super like antisocial guy. Like just being around Bitcoiners is fun. But like I guess here in Austin, you can do that a lot. So
yeah, we're about to be real spoiled because it's going to feel like Bitcoin is life down here, and then you can go to any other part of the country and people can be like, "What the hell's Bitcoin?"
So I guess it's like,
well, maybe not that anymore, but like it just won't be as central.
So like having parties is that cultish behavior? I guess.
Are having parties cultish behavior?
Like, are they necessary? And I don't mean hanging out with Bitcoiners, because
I feel like it is just kind of an excuse to have a party.
Right, that's what I mean.
Because of how, again, uneventful it is, except for some numbers changing, for the next 210,000 blocks.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I meant. Like, they made it a spectacle, but like, it's not really a spectacle. It's just...
Well, I mean, this year was kind of a spectacle in different ways, at the protocol level, because the blocks were insane and have cooled down a little bit in terms of their composition of, transactions.
I'm just trying to figure out what the meat space scenario is for this occurrence that we already know is going to happen being a thing. But I guess it's just more like an anniversary.
Well,
right? Since
there's going to be, the next halving is going to occur during the Super Bowl, so it'll make for a good halftime show. I'm just making shit up. But
I'm about to say,
wouldn't that be interesting?
I was like, you must be autistic. How did you get this? How did you calculate that it was going to be on the Super Bowl, fam?
Well, that's a good point. It's probably only going to be like spring break next time, because because in 2020 it was like Mother's Day in May, and that's like right around the corner now. Yeah, and the halving just happened like a week ago, so like we're looking at like probably we'll subtract a month off. But it's really interesting because I think that the 2016 halving was in like November. So it was like 6 months of hash rate that just like, I guess, acceleration of hash rate that made it so that it came that much sooner.
Yeah.
And then...
But that shouldn't happen though, because of the difficulty adjustment.
Well, true, but...
I mean, it won't be spot on, but like 6 months seems like a huge gap.
Well, it's... the thing is it can only catch up every 2 weeks. So in 2 week periods, if you make large enough leaps, like you're outrunning the 10 minutes still. If the network is growing, you're going faster than 10 minutes, and so the halving is getting also 210,000 blocks doesn't perfectly equate to 4 calendar years. So there's always going to be some adjustment there.
So the assumption would be is that from, and I'm sure there's a chart that will show this somewhere, that from 2016 to 2020 hash rate pumped.
Oh, I would,
drastically.
It absolutely did. I know from this time, or at least this price level 4 years ago, we've gone up. I think it was 4 or 6x in hash rate.
But we didn't lose 6 months.
Correct.
So from
2016 to 20, I would expect that. Like, it was more
2020 hash rate pumped a lot
more than what we just did in the last 4 years as like a percentage basis or whatever.
Gotcha. That would make sense. And I'm sure there's a chart out there. As a matter of fact, if you're listening and you're into mining,
throw the chart in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of miner fans out there, and I would ask this question to a miner fan for sure. Somebody who's well versed in hash rate and all that. Drop a chart if you know, or drop an answer. Let us know down in the boost section. But that's fascinating. So yeah, back to the halving, like, I think like the, as a person, you like the first of everything is always supposed to be special. Yeah. Like in theory, like your kid's first birthday, or like your first anniversary of doing something amazing, first relationship or marriage anniversary, right? So like now I kind of feel like, damn, I should have done something. But the other side of me just knows that like there'll always be another one, we know. And I really was with the people that I love most that day, which was my parents, my wife, and my kids. So it was actually it wasn't my daughter's birthday exactly, but that's when we sung her happy birthday or whatever. We did a little preemptively. So one side of me is like, yeah, I would love to hang out with the Bitcoiners and have this like I'm calling it cultish, but it's not cultish. This like massive event to where we just celebrate a number changing. But the other side of it is I probably was exactly where I would want to be anyways, which is with my loved ones. Yeah. So. Anyways, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just kind of funny because in my head I'm like counting down. Like when I left the office on Friday, it was I think we were 9 blocks away.
Yeah.
And one of my coworkers was like, "Oh shit, we got to get out to the party or whatever. It could happen any minute." I'm like, "Yeah, man, it could just be rapid fire, boom, 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 boom. I can't even get home before the halving." Well, I got home and there was still like 4 blocks left or whatever, and you know, it was kind of funny in my head. The build up, the crescendo, the just like excitement of like, okay, like I'm gonna inspect this block and it's gonna be exactly what I expect it to be, and like that's a celebration moment right there. It's like further confirmed. Like every block, every difficulty adjustment is confirmation, but when a halving happens, it's like that's the ultimate of like, oh, not only have we, you know, block by block been doing things right, but you know, we laser, you know, it's so precise. It is predictable.
Consensus is still enforced.
Very predictable. Yeah. And so it's just another fuck you to Jamie Dimon that Satoshi is still very detached from the Bitcoin protocol.
Yeah, I did check the block as well. So I definitely was aware of what was happening and happy that once again consensus is still intact. But yeah, it's weird. The parties and the events all left and right was I don't know. It was bittersweet for me. It was like I should have done it, but like
you get a little bit of FOMO because you see Bitcoiners out there have fun, talk about Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay, you know that could be fun. Yeah.
No, it was definitely fun, especially the brunch that we here in Austin or whatever. Like,
you went?
No, I didn't go, but I know plenty of people went, and all the people that I know that I respect highly were there. So I'm sure it was great, and the event space was great, and it was a correlation, which is big in Austin. And if depending on where you're listening from, you might not give 2 shits about this. It was a big correlation between Bitcoiners and the health conscious community, because it was at the Sapien Center. And you know there was a Fiat Food. I forgot. Is it Matthew as well?
Matt Lisiak. I'm butchering the name, but sorry, yeah, Matt. Fiat Food. I have the book. Have not read it yet, but it is in line.
Basically, one of our coworkers basically told me that he had a great a talk, and then he was on a panel. Some of the Beat Mafia guys I know were there. Shout out to them. You know, Parker was there, et cetera, a bunch of our coworkers, stuff. So
those are the kinds of events that you want to just have regularly. Like, it's great that they did a halving thing, but like
we kind of do though. That's what I mean. That's why I didn't really have FOMO, because I was like, all right, we've had these events a lot. Yeah. I think this was the first one at the Sapien Center.
Well, that's why I was specifically talking about Sapien Center, because I just found out about them and their whole wellness, you know, angle and you know, just taking care of the human body, and making sure it's well nourished and well prepared for, you know, the adversity that life brings. But yeah, I agree. You know, the community is very vibrant here in Austin. Yeah. Like everybody, the network is very strong, and both the Bitcoin network and the network of Bitcoiners here. And so like, it's almost like you get, it's so funny. This random thought just popped in my head, but it's like a fraternity you don't have to pay for, and they don't haze you. It's just friends. it's just like you're just built-in friends. Like you just come and join, and like boom, you get introduced to like 16 people, and these are your new best friends. Oh, and by the way, they're gonna actually have your back.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but yeah.
Well, everyone I've met.
No. Listen, well, let me make this clarification.
Everybody that I continue to associate myself with, I should say. I should further refine that.
Let me make this clarification. Yes, everyone is friendly, but when I think about somebody getting your back, that's a very small circle for me.
Yeah.
Whether they get my back or not, great. But like, if you were to say, yo, how many of these, let's just say 20 people you think got your back, I'm only gonna be able to call out a few.
I see.
I'm just saying.
you got to be confident when you say that.
Yeah, right. I'm not just gonna go around and say anybody got my back. Yeah. And to be fair, so should everybody. They shouldn't say that I got their back if they don't know that.
Maybe
sure.
I'm just thinking about my small circle when I say that, and
maybe,
you know.
But you're right.
It's just,
like usually very welcoming, usually very humble, and immediately you share a lot of the same beliefs, right? So it's very easy to get along with that crowd. I never went to college, so I don't know what a fraternity is, but
good.
Yeah, right. I have an idea.
You didn't miss anything.
And I would equate gang life as, I guess, fraternities where I'm from. So
it's a little like that.
Yeah. So like I kind of get the analogy anyways. But like, yeah, no, listen, super friendly. Bitcoin is awesome. But if it's time to bust it down, I don't know if everybody got my back.
We got our ride or dies. We got our short list.
We got our few that I know for sure is going to take a blow with me. But everybody else is probably going to run away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Speaking of having, you know, a lot of people have had their purchasing power cut in half. Not Bitcoiners, but
no, ours is jumping out.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah.
But you look around and you know, everybody sees prices of things going up. And that's what they think it is.
Yeah.
You know, on face value, the number goes up, it must be more expensive. And you'd be wrong to think that because what you're actually witnessing is a byproduct of money printing. You've got the inflation of the base money supply via the Fed just clicking buttons on the spreadsheet and, you know, control N, new dollar, times a billion, times, you know, tens of billions. And then they're sending it all over the world. And who's going to pay for it? Well, it's going to be you. And how are you going to exactly pay for that? Because they can't just like jack up your taxes and stuff. Well, this money printing, it actually extracts the value straight from you without even having to talk to you. All you got to do in order to let that cycle play out is to hold dollars. And thereby you've had your purchasing power diminished. Everything just seems like it's gone up in price, but really what's happened is you've just lost your status, essentially. Your status is being drained from you. Your economic status is what I'm talking about, not like society or, you know, your friends or whatever. This is like, you know, the economic damage you could do, so to speak, in terms of purchasing power. And there's a really good tweet, and I'm a little bit biased because Joe Burnett, coworker here at Unchained.
Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe Burnett. He does a fire podcast called Bitcoin Frontier Podcast, and has, you know, just amazing questions, really great guests, and the conversations are very rich. And
I hear he has an amazing producer too.
I did hear that.
I heard he got some good stuff there. So shout out to Joe and Joe's producer.
Love it. But without further ado, I'll get into kind of this tweet that Joe posted. He said, "A house is not a good long-term investment, just like a car is not a good long-term investment." Pause. Hold up, Joe. You're telling me that my car that only goes down in value is basically the same as my house, but I see that price going up. So what's happening here? He continues to go and say, both are consumption items that decay over time. Okay, definitely true. Your house falls apart over time. Your car falls apart over time. They need regular maintenance. Yep. And depreciate in value. But again, like I'm seeing my house number go up, but my car number goes down. What's going on? Houses are actually worse considering they can't be moved and are taxed annually. So on top of this sort of, you know, bleeding this investment that's bleeding the money from it or bleeding the value from it, you can't move it. You know, you can't move it in the sense of, you know, geographically move it, but then also transfer ownership to another person via a sale. And as we are all seeing, you know, the instinct to try to jack taxes up is being you know, is being manifested out there. And so not only does, you know, to walk through this again, your money is losing value, so it takes more of it to purchase the same amount of goods. You know, so the same house 5 years later doubles in the cost to acquire it, but it's still the same house. You hadn't added an extra building or anything. So that should tell you that, well, something got cut in half or something doubled. Which is it? Well, since the house didn't change, you know, that you know, it didn't become more valuable, especially because they're still building houses. What's happened is your dollar, your savings, your result of your work and your labor has just been essentially disregarded. And now it's going to take you twice as long. You're going to have to work twice as hard to acquire the same amount of value to purchase the same exact item or good or service that, you know, previously was more easily acquired. So this is very real. This is like, you know, a lot of Americans look at their house as an investment.
Yeah.
They look at it as their nest egg, their savings account, kind of.
Yeah, this one hit close to me. That's it. And before we get into the response to that, which is why I wanted to talk about this, hit close because I just closed on a home.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those conversations that have always happened even before Bitcoin, right? Like I remember when before Bitcoin, when you're trying to be an investor and you like, you know, you listen to like the Bigger Pockets podcast or stuff like that, like Real Estate Mogul podcast or whatever. And you add that to the fact that like anybody who has, and you know, there's a lot of different ways to have wealth, but like the biggest, wealthiest people have massive real estate portfolios. Like real estate has always been that tool to be, you know, basically, you know, the Grant Cardone of things, right? Or the Donald Trump of things, or this type of thing. So like, I think in this situation, in the Bitcoin world, everything goes to zero when it, you know, compared to Bitcoin. So like, I think Bitcoin is very easy to say that, but there's so many different nuance. Not only decisions that have to be made here, but personal decisions that get made when it comes to this. To loop back, I think the conversation of is real estate a good investment since the beginning of real estate has always been a conversation. A lot of people are going to say no, because you have to take care of it, and because you have to, if you rent it out, you have to be a landlord and you have to replace things. And it's like, I think that it's depending on your experience, right? Because just as many people are saying, but, there's other people that are saying stack, and they have doors and they have a shitload of wealth. Yeah. And they don't care about those problems because they're interested in doing that. So that's one aspect of this. But ultimately, to Joe's point, I think this always boils down to two things could be right at the same time. I think he's 100% right that like, if your experience with housing is bleeding money, right? If you made a bad investment and you bought in a bad part of town and your numbers not going up and your fucking roof breaks and you just having a shitty experience and you have no reason to be in a house, meaning you have no family, you're probably better off not buying real estate. That's the truth for a car too. Yeah. If I get a car and if you and I buy the same car at the same exact time, and in 10 years I fixed my car one time and you fixed it every 3 months, your story is going to be very different than my story is going to be. Yeah. You're going to tell me how having a car is such a bad investment. And I'm going to tell you, well, Kev, I only fixed it once, and driving to work or to freelance jobs, I made $1 gazillion. A car is an amazing investment. Yeah. Right? So like, he's right, but he's wrong. And now I'm going to let you get into Lynn's answer, and then I'm going to finish my point. Lynn's response.
So Lynn says, ironically...
This is Lynn Alden, right?
Yes.
Just for clarification.
Lynn Alden. The Lynn Alden, author of Broken Money.
The Lynn Alden. Yeah. She, her.
Yes. Ironically, the reason that a house often becomes a decent investment in practice is not necessarily the house itself, which is a depreciating non-scarce asset, but rather the fiat currency short, which is your mortgage, and the forced monthly savings rate, also known as building equity, it comes with. That's a lot to break down. Yeah. So one thing that stuck out to me right here is the fiat currency short, because you're acquiring, and this is where, you know, you've got, you know, the value of your home, right? It is the same house, like I was saying earlier. Yeah. It hasn't changed. What has changed is your money is no longer as valuable against that house as it was before. And also, you levered up to acquire an asset that was going to stand up against the depreciation of your money, despite having all of these other maintenance costs associated to it and still depreciating. Like, your house is, what I'm saying here is, your house is literally falling apart and it's still doing better than the dollar.
Bingo. Bingo. So and I'm putting words. We should invite Joe on. But if the point is that Joe was saying real estate is not going to return better than Bitcoin, duh. Yeah. But that's not the point. The point that people like me and people like you, I'm assuming, have to make is her point, which is, hey man, I basically got this money fronted from the bank, right? So like I levered up in that situation. My money is basically a savings if you think about it as equity because it's going in. And although the building may be falling apart, Austin is not. Mm-hmm. The land. Yeah. What's happening around the land. Right. And then the same way a person who purchased my property, let's say 4 years before me, was able to take advantage of that same inflation rate going up and you needing more dollars by selling it to me. Well, guess what I'm going to do to the next person? The same exact thing. Mm-hmm. Right. So like not only is it a savings in the equity, right? Not only am I going to be able to kick the can down the road and then eventually double up on my, or, you know, not double literally, but like up again when I go to sell it because the money is going to be that much more inflated by the time the next person goes to move in and they're going to have to pay me that much more. Yeah. But the big one that maybe Joe's missing here, boy, do I want my family to have a home. Yep. All right. And that's why, priceless.
That's right? Why, yeah, exactly. That's why the home is not an investment for a lot of people. It's a utility.
Exactly. Yeah. So in my situation, and I'm trying to word this so that's not too doxing. I'm going to try to tiptoe around where I'm at and location wise. Everybody knows I'm in Austin. I've said that before. But the part where I'm at has huge potential boom for investment because of the companies that are over there and because of what's the money that's going over there. So my wife and I strategically did two things. We brought property that's historically and economically going to boom in the next 5 years and brought that into our family's estate or name, right? So that we can present ourselves better options said 4 years, whether it's keep it, sell it, rent it, whatever it may be, build that equity, right? But also, and most importantly, not use my money that I work hard for to do that for somebody else, which is what renting is. Mm-hmm. If I'm renting a house, the other person is capitalizing on me 2 times. Mm-hmm. I'm paying their equity, so I'm putting the savings into their pot. That's one. And they're taking away from my family because it's going into their equity, it's not going into mine. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like I just named probably like 4 or 5 different mindsets where I disagree 100% with Joe. Mm-hmm. On the car, I agree with for the most part. Yeah. I don't really think about it. I mean, although let me take that back. My car, thankfully, I have already numbers wise, from what I've returned. Same thing. I borrowed money from the bank at a pretty low interest rate. And because of my day job and because of maybe some freelance stuff that I've done, I've already paid the car off 2 times. Nice. Now, obviously, I'd rather pay them what the minimum, right? But like value-wise, I've already gotten twice the amount of value for my car. So I could also argue that was a great investment. Right. Because if I would have not borrowed the money from the bank and got a used car, I probably would have been putting a lot of more work into it.
I think there's a degree of smart spending to be all right, maybe that's what I'm trying to say as well. Yeah. Because like you have your utility reason that you buy a house for, but there is a side effect of that of like because of the financial structure of a mortgage and like how your home is going to accrete equity over time, like those kind of just happen by having a house. Yeah. So like that happens whether you like it or not. Yeah. As long as you're making your payments and as long as you didn't buy a shitty house, then your house is going to hold together reasonably well in the amount of time that you're going to get the most benefit out of it before you then, pass the bag off to somebody else.
Yeah. Which is kind of what real estate is. And now for nothing, before we go there, and I'm not a real estate agent. I'm just talking about my own experience. Disclaimer, however you want. I don't even know what the disclaimer for this is. But there's also another move that I was able to do that was recommended to me from my real estate agent, which is what they call a 2-1 buy down. And the real fascinating part about this is that since the interest rates are so high right now because of everything that's going on, in theory, what we did is we went to the seller and basically said, hey, man, why don't you, since we're interested in buying this, pay our interest down for 2 years, right? So for just easy mathematicals, or mathematicals a word?
I don't even know where this is going. I've never heard of this, so I'm very curious.
So check this out. So for easy math, house is $200,000.
All right.
You can say, hey, how do we, $200,000. You could either ask for two ways. So you could basically say, hey, house is $200,000. We'll give you the $200,000. You give us $10,000 in return. So they net $190,000. And what that $10,000 does is buy our interest rate down, our mortgage down.
Oh,
for
buying
2 years.
points. Got you.
Yeah, they call it a 2-1, but I guess in theory it's buying points.
I don't know what this 2-1 is, but
That's what they call it in real estate land.
Weird. I just always heard of it. It must have changed right when I left banking because it was always buying points.
Well, maybe in the real estate terms, a little bit different than in banking. But anyways, the point is basically that. Yeah. So now it's like I've even levered up because in an environment where everybody's paying, let's say 6%, my mortgage is at a 4%.
Right. Yep.
So this also builds into like the smart move.
And not tax advice, but I do believe that you put that on your tax return. I just filed my taxes, so I know that there was a points section on there. Anyway,
sure, yeah. The point is that like smart buying, like you said, right? So it's like now I'm actually paying hundreds of dollars less than my actual renting of somebody else's houses. I'm building the equity. My estate, which is my family, has property under their name in one of the bigger cities in America.
Yeah, and it works really great if you're going to plan to be there, about 10 years at least, because that's about the break-even point for buying points.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't come out of my pocket. They paid for that, right? So with money from the bank.
Yeah. That's a beautiful deal, man. Bring you to my next closing.
No. Well, hey, shout out to my real estate agent. I'll give you her phone number. I'm just saying, like, this is why, like, we spent this much time talking about this here. But like, as soon as I saw Joe put that and Lynn bring it back up, I tend to agree with Lynn because two things are right here. Yeah, a house is probably a shitty investment in some sense, but it all depends on how you look at it.
It's shitty as an investment.
As an investment, correct.
But if you're going for utility.
Yep.
I think that's what everybody gets
at. Bad as an investment.
Well, that's the thing. I think everybody thinks of it as like when you buy a house, you're like, oh, you're an investor, and it's like, no, dude, I just want a place to live.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true too.
Like that's the mindset that everybody's caught up
Facts.
in. Is like whenever you hear that someone bought a house, you're like, oh, great investment. Motherfucker, I just need a place to live.
Yeah. But
I just don't want to live under 7th Street.
I don't think I don't think it's the worst investment. And honestly, like you said, I think a little like to even start this whole section. Everything's a better investment compared to holding dollars.
Exactly.
So it's like I think Joe always has, well, not always. Jesus, I don't even want to do that. But like for the most part, his points are like most Bitcoiners' points with the lens of Bitcoin. Everything is shit.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because like that's been the game from the beginning, from the first mandate of 2% inflation from the Fed. What they have basically telegraphed to the world in words that only some people understand. Hey, we're guaranteeing that you're going to lose next year and the year after that and the year after that and the year after that. Matter of fact, this block of wood is going to win more than this dollar will. Watch.
Right.
That is what they're guaranteeing.
But what is the method? And you probably know the answer to this, and we're literally talking about it. But the method to avoid that is, and the people that never get, who never succumb to that loss every year are the ones who hold assets.
Yeah, exactly.
So like to me, it's like, once again, if it's under the lens of Bitcoin, yes, hold Bitcoin. Right. I don't need to take care of Bitcoin. I just put it away.
Yeah.
It does what it does, etc. But that's not the point. And that's a very naive view. That's a very short-sighted view, not naive. A very short-sighted view of like the people out here that have families, bro. Like, fam, I need a place to put my kids, bro. And it can't be in somebody else's equity pot. I can't be paying off somebody else's equity or somebody else's bills. I can't be doing that.
Forever,
I got to do that
anyway.
For myself.
Short term. Short term can be advantageous.
Okay. Yeah, well, exactly. Because when I got into Austin, that's exactly what I did.
Yep.
I used it to my advantage or whatever. But like, hey man, they're gonna keep raising their property tax is gonna go up, their bills, and they're gonna keep raising your rent, and you're just gonna continue to pay that off for what? For the high time preference of saying that like, oh, if something happens, they'll take care of it. Newsflash: with most of the leases nowadays, you're still taking care of the majority of shit.
And I mean, let's just also state the obvious here. Like, in order for you to continue living in that rental house, the owner needs to make the mortgage payment.
Exactly.
And if they're not making the mortgage payment, guess who's getting evicted?
Yeah. And another problem there is stability, right? Because I've actually, the people, I don't know them personally, but the people that came to look at like the place that I was renting, because like they're going to take over it or whatever, what happened to them? The opposite of what you're saying. The person didn't stop paying their mortgages. They sold the property. So guess what happens when they sell the property?
You're out.
You're rug pulled.
Yep.
Right. So like your stability
quite
is now
literally
gone.
They pull the rug right out from under you in your own living room.
Exactly. So like now you've lost control. Like all these things. So if you ask me, it's like with Lynn's point attached to it, which is like the equity building in or whatever, and the other side of it, which is like the same method of shit costing more because they keep printing that same function. That works for you if you have an asset. Because that asset that you go on and sell benefits from shit being more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, I mean,
there's that saying, man, don't fight the Fed.
Play the game.
Yeah.
So like, hey man, like and then if you want to like zoom back into the car example, once again, like if you buy a Tesla and the shit just sits there, you have a bad investment. And well, actually, the Tesla probably not because they hold value pretty well.
Do they? I didn't know that. I don't know anything about those cars.
Compared to a gas-powered car, I think they hold value very well. I think you can still flip a Tesla for pretty high up. But
really?
Anyways, the point is, if you buy a car and like, if I would have came to Austin, actually, this is real deal. This is true. I'm speaking nothing but truth. Everybody who listens to the show knows that I say it the way it is and to say it the way I experienced it. When we came here, we brought my shitty ass car. It's a Lincoln MKS. The car needed a ton of work. So what did I do? I basically, instead of continuing to put the work in it, I sold it to somebody out here for $1,700. I bought Bitcoin with that $1,700. I don't know what the price was. It was low 30s. So I definitely came up on that already. Right. But what I did was I got my really great credit score. I went to the bank and I bought a newer car. I didn't buy a Tesla. I bought just a 2020, whatever. One of the, like, it was a Nissan.
A sensible purchase for someone who is, literally just using their car to drive around, and drive their family around.
Besides maybe some oil change, thankfully, I'm over here going to jinx myself to death. Besides some oil changes, the car is really sustainable and is really doing very well. And as I've said, I've made a ton of money on side jobs. I've made a ton of money just showing up to my day job. And and then obviously my family's been able to utilize it, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, it's like, I would have never been able to do that with my Lincoln MKS. And it probably would have been draining money from my income as opposed to helping me expand my income.
Because you'd have fixed it up 6 more times in between then and now.
100%. And the problems were pretty major, right? Like, I forgot the actual term, but like basically the pieces that hold the engine block up. Right, like I forgot what those
the mounts.
The mounts, yeah, the engine mounts, right? Well, like basically, you would hit the brakes and you would feel, right? Not like crazy, but it was getting there, right?
Engine just pops out of it.
Nah, it wasn't that bad, like, but like you can tell that the mounts needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
So like money that you would have put in, and then
that's thousands of dollars.
Right. So what did I do? I basically sold that one, to somebody who really wanted it. Transparent, told them everything that was wrong with it. They thought it was a fantastic deal. I went ahead and bought more investment with it, right? So my car is not, that old car is actually still being invested, right? Because I transferred that over to Bitcoin. And then I went to the bank and said, hey, this whole system, like you said, play the game. This whole like good credit score thing that you guys have been telling me since I was little I needed, I actually got that.
Nice.
So let me get that loan.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Right. And this is like, once again, this is something that I do want to write about. And this is something that most people like, well, especially where I'm from, is like, spend the cash, spend the cash, spend the cash. And it's like, you don't necessarily have to spend the cash unless you really have to. You can go other ways about it and do things a little bit smarter. Call it money moves, call it whatever the hell you want. I'm just trying to say where I'm from, this is like rocket science, right? Like dudes where I'm from don't.
You just played 4D chess.
Where I'm from, yes. In other parts of the world, it's like, duh, buddy. Like, this is how you use credit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, like, the point is that like, we spending a lot of time on Joe's because it really is a good debate. And I think Joe's right, but I also think he's wrong, right? I think two things are right at the same time. I think real estate is a bad investment and cars, but I also think real estate is a good investment and cars. Depending on what you do with them. Depending on a lot of different things, how you acquire them, et cetera, et cetera.
It's just...
It's a fascinating combo.
Like, I just really hate that our tools just crap out over time. You know, like what happened to building good tools that'll last forever? You know, like the Craftsman. What was the warranty?
Yeah.
Like you break one of their wrenches and they'll just fucking give you a new one because like they warranty it.
If you ask the old schoolers like my dad, they'll just tell you like made in China bullshit. Right? Like this shit just got worse over time. My dad with cars, he'll tell me all the time. Every time there's like a check engine light, my dad just laughs. He's like, "This is nonsense. Like, this is just so you can go and waste money repairing it and blah blah blah." They got all these like shit. Basically, they're built to have you to be money suckers.
Yeah, they're engineered to break down.
Right. So that you can buy the next one, right? But like he brings up, he's a HVAC guy or whatever, and like appliances is big in his thing and all that stuff. So he basically just brings up like old washing machines and refrigerators. It's like, you got an old fucking washing, like a Kenmore or something, dude. Yeah. Like the shit was not failing ever.
No.
Yeah, you could probably still buy one and this shit is functioning perfectly fine.
If you have one from the 70s, it'll be there in 2070.
Right. So know? Like if you ask them, they'll just tell you like whatever. If you access Bitcoiners, it's a money problem, right? Cheap money, right? It makes cheap products and fast money, you know, high time preference shit, right? But these are industries too. Like
that's what happens when you turn that inflation knob up into the positive. You all of a sudden rearrange everyone's incentives to just kind of
make cheap shit.
Just have a consumption, you know, consumerism sort of life.
Yeah. The big one here is in I don't know if it's necessarily hospitality, but yeah, like services. Like, dude, when that money inflation printer went up, especially during COVID, good luck getting some good hospitality, fam. I mean, listen, I'm thankful in Texas. In Texas, sirs, ma'ams, that's kind of the culture. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody's like that. But, like, fam, you can't walk into anywhere without an employee giving you an eye roll or an employee basically telling you they don't know, like, without thought. Like, I was in Home Depot buying something. I asked 5 people, different people, and they all basically were like, sorry, I don't know.
Yeah.
And my dad was with me and he was like, hey man, I remember a time when you would ask him and he'll be like distinct professional.
Yeah.
A homeboy would break down a whole kitchen for you.
He would give you 3 book recommendations on the best way to do it.
Yeah. And then one of our coworkers the other day was basically talking about Home Depot and was like, I think one of their like business models were like, we're like the professionals or whatever. Like, we'll navigate you to
there was something like, you can do it, we can help.
Some shit like that, right?
Some help. I don't know.
So like correlation to the money printer, like the help just went down the shitter, and like in other parts of the country,
they just took it off as you can do it.
We here,
we're here. You can do it. We're here.
So like, like if you ask the older generation, they would just say the products are being made somewhere, but like the real answer is the incentives have been broken to actually give a fuck anymore, right? Like I don't need to make sure that your service is fantastic when gratuity is already built in.
You don't have the luxury of thinking of anyone but yourself.
Because it's not all, but like it's the rent seeker thing, right? It's like Jimmy Song talks about this a lot, right? Where it's like you're gonna get
you're in it for you.
In it for you, but like you position yourself. Most of these roles position themselves in a way where it's like whether Jose's happy or not, it doesn't matter. I'm getting paid.
Exactly.
Right, so like that's a rent seeker.
Because I'm only in it for me. I don't care about my 100%. Service that's good or integrity. No, I don't care any of that. All I care about is my income stream, and as long as that keeps coming, I'm not doing anything else.
But the reason for that is because not only is it easy for them to get more of that money, but the money that they get is valueless to them. They don't really see it as like listen, man. We talked about examples of like this before. If you were to conduct a service like fix my car or whatever, and I paid you in gold, bro. Fam, you're going to do your best job. You're going to come back, right? Like, you're going to be like, yo, damn, like, thanks for paying me in this shit, bro. Like, the other guy would have just paid me in quarters.
I'm going to go figure out how to liquidate this and get some Bitcoin. But I do appreciate the hard money.
Yeah.
Like, I do appreciate that's not going to melt tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like it could be anything that's like of higher perceived value, right? Like, I use gold as the example because if
you could use silver. It's the same argument.
Right. It's like, it's better than quarters that are like, whatever. I don't even know what quarters are made of nowadays, but they're not.
Mainly, I thought copper.
Some bullshit.
Like they're like
painted or some shit.
They're what's the word for it? It's a I can't even remember the word for it. It's it's basically like
some fiat metal.
Well, it's coated in something, but underneath, I'm pretty sure it's just I guess like bronze or copper or something. It's just not. It's nothing. It used to be silver.
Right. So like if you come and pay me in that, like my perceived value, especially if I don't want it, like, you know what I'm saying? If I don't want that, that's not perceived value to me. When you come to me, I'm not going to give you my best of my best because you're paying me with your least of the least, right? Like if I see a farmer has a shitload of cows and then he wants to barter with me and pay me in some bronze, it's like, fam, I want meat, bro. So like, yeah, I'll still barter with you, but like, do I want to give you 100%? Like what you're giving me is not even going to do anything for me. On the other hand, if the farmer comes to me and says, hey man, fix my car and I'll give you a half a cow, fam, not only am I going to fix your car, I'm going to vacuum it. I'm going to wash it on the outside. I'm going to take it for a ride and make sure it's good.
Yeah, because you're going to want to get contacted again when that car breaks down.
Bingo, right? So it's like, yeah, the hospitality and the services go down because like most of these employees that are working don't even, they're just so mad at their life because what they're getting paid in is worthless. So it's like, why do the extra mile for you, right? Like, why make sure that you're happy and why smile when my paycheck is already getting taxed to death, but also I can't buy anything with my paycheck and I'm miserable to be here, right? So like, yeah, it all stems down then to like the product, right? Then the products are shit, the food is shit, the quality is shit of everything. And, you know, the old schoolers would just be like, oh yeah, that's outsourcing. Yeah. But we all know that it's just money printing go up.
You can't just, you know, print half of the money that has ever existed and expect everybody else to just, you know, lives be completely unaffected and everything, because what's happened is there's just, you know, that much more, you know, I guess divisions of, you know, it siphons off the wealth, it extracts it from you and puts it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then you're left with the desolation of this environment that you're in of like, oh man, like, all of a sudden I can only afford half of what I could afford before. So like, which arm do I get to keep?
Yeah.
You know, like those are the kinds of decisions, like that's a little extreme, but I mean, if you only had enough money to make it through 1 month of food, now you're only going to eat every other day.
Right.
Like what's the expectation here and who is being held accountable for these results?
And this is why I love Parker's AB analogy for money, which is an analogy in the way he says it, but it's actually fact. But the AB test is that those same exact people who start figuring out, or which is how I got into Bitcoin, will start figuring out that they have to now make more sacrifices to eat less or whatever.
Yeah.
They go and search for the better form of money.
Yeah.
Right, because they figure out that the money is the problem. Like, I don't have enough of it. And then the A/B test, just like in every other A/B test in the world, is that. It's like, I tried A, I tried B, I'm going to go with the better one, right? So, like, it's weird how, it's not weird, but, like, one of the use cases of, like, that system being so evil and so shitty and break it down is that, like, it forces people to find the better form of money. So like this actually is a win for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like almost
you have to suffer during it.
Almost like, you know, the fact that there were slaves led to the fact that they were then liberated later, because like slavery was such a goddamn awful thing.
It needs to happen.
And people found out, you know, or they realized, I guess, over time that they were morally wrong beforehand, and then, you know, see the evils of it, and then it begins to change.
You gotta find it. Yep. You gotta definitely move that way. And I don't even know how we got here from Joe and Lynn, but shout out to Joe.
It's all about incentives and what changing what seemingly little innocuous things, such as, you know, the inflation target, and like 2% seems like such a low number. They're never getting back to 2%. Quite frankly, it's probably impossible with how much money they have to print now just to keep this whole charade rolling along. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. The dollar's fucking dead, man. It died last Tuesday with the halving. Like, it's just done. And no one is wanting to admit it, or at least, you know, the two people closest to Bernie, and so they're just parading him around. I mean, you literally had a situation where a lady in Brazil took her dead uncle to the bank.
I heard about that.
And tried to get a loan. Tried to get him to co-sign for a loan.
Did it work?
And I don't know the outcome, but I saw the video and it was quite disturbing. And I was like, I had to watch the video just to make sure that it was like what the description was saying it was.
Yeah.
And I was appalled, man. I'm just like, you know, but again, you can't sit here and blame the niece that is just trying to make ends meet.
Right.
She is seeing this opportunity as her one shot to put food on the table, because things are so bad where she is that is a viable option.
Right. This is the idea she came up with to literally avoid suffering more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a crazy one for us. I guess we're spoiled in that sense. It's crazy for us, but in her mind, it's like, this is gonna work.
Yeah,
this is gonna work. I mean, it
the
either works or I starve.
The country's so screwed up. How am I gonna not get away with it?
Yeah,
like you know what I mean.
Either it works or I starve, and sometimes it boils down to that. That goes, and this is gonna get really dark quick, but quickly that goes to like the whole when people asking you like, oh, if you were stranded or whatever, blah blah blah, would you eat the buddy or whatever? Would you eat your friend that passed away or something like that? And it's like, or something along those lines, like the soccer team or whatever.
Yeah,
where
the cannibalism, all that.
Yeah, like would you go that far? And it's like, no, but I've also never been to the point where the only option left is that one.
Right.
Because when the only option left is that or die, people flip quick.
Yep.
Your mind will change extremely quick, and you would do like and this lady was obviously in that same mindset where she's like, I have to do the craziest thing, like drag my dead uncle into this damn bank because I'm close to dying or like close to extinction or close to suffering.
Yeah. Like how many steps between that and like murder or theft or whatever anti-moral thing that or low moral thing that we regard is going to be the next plan for her,
right?
Or someone she knows,
and nobody's going to help.
Yeah, no one's going to help because again, they're all worried about themselves because, I mean, what can you blame them? Yeah. Like you have to prioritize your own survival before you can help anyone else. And, the reason that you're not getting any help at Home Depot, nobody cares about anyone else because they're only thinking about, man, once I get out of this job, once I get out of my shift today, I need to go do this, I need to go do that, but I got to also figure out how to not spend money, and I got to do that and the other thing, and maybe they got to go to their second job, or they got to go run their kids across town and do all this other stuff because they've got to put their kids somewhere while everybody goes to work, and it's just your life becomes a rat race.
Everybody's on fringe.
Yeah.
Right. Because like me asking the question about the sink, I also have a million problems.
Yep.
Right. So I'm over here trying to like answer my question because I also have X, Y, Z. And then to combat, he's also thinking what you just said, like, well, I got X, Y, Z, B. My boss is an asshole, all this stuff. Right. And like everybody's just walking around literally on fringe.
Yeah.
And all of it because...
Oh, now I understand what that means. Okay. I didn't know what you meant when you said on fringe first, but it's basically like walking on eggshells. Like you're just like, you like at any minute, everything could come crashing down.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's on that mode. I mean, it might be naive to just say like Bitcoin fixes this, but like I just think good currency fixes this. Like it just shows how bad things are in the world. And I mean, I know Fallout has definitely been very popular lately because of the TV show, etc. But like I've always been a fan of that franchise because that franchise, for some reason, it depicts very well that when everything is catastrophic, people just continue to seem to operate like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it's there's like a...
I mean, the world just forgot about COVID and all of the scam that we all just endured, and everyone's still afraid to talk about it, and everyone's like afraid to admit to themselves that there was a scam and that everyone got scammed. Like, just say it and say it proudly. Like, I fucking got scammed, man.
Most people, that's like
everybody. It happened.
Yeah, but like the whole, like from one of Tom's points from the last episode, like the whole sunk cost bias thing, like it's when you put that much time, especially into that cultish behavior where people were like, mask, unmask, all this shit, man, you don't want to be wrong, fam. Like you spent holidays bitching at people across the kitchen table, now across the dinner table. Now you actually got to show up to these same events and you got to be wrong?
Yeah.
People don't do that very well.
I understand it. And
I do it excellent. As a matter of fact, I'm so hard on myself that I say I don't know shit about shit.
Yes.
So like I do that very well. But there's most people don't do that very well.
There's something about, like someone who can honestly self-deprecate.
Yeah.
And like critically look at themselves and 100%. Be like, that was a shit move, dude. Yeah. Like that was a shitty thing to say. Like I still got people I need to apologize to, for things like for being insane during COVID, because like at the beginning nobody knew what was true. Nobody knew what was happening. It was all just chaos. We just had all this crazy information and noise everywhere. And it wasn't until a few months later where the lockdowns and stuff started happening, where people had started to figure it out. It's like, oh, this really ain't that bad, and we really don't need to do all this, and kill the mom and pop stores and restaurants, and wear masks outside, and then wear them alone while driving, and like all this other crazy nonsense that some people are still doing, honestly.
Yeah.
Out of some ridiculous notion that they think COVID's gonna get them somehow. It's like, dude, newsflash,
Sunk cost, bro.
It never was a thing.
They can't be wrong.
And you gotta snap out of it.
They can't be wrong,
or
bro.
Your life is never gonna get better,
dude. Everything because this is the thing. Most people have no position in life, right? So through the COVID thing, they finally found their position, so they thought. Their breed, their crowd, right? So
their
now,
purpose.
Yeah. So now, if you're gonna try to tell these people that purpose is gone, dude, they're gonna look at you like you are an asshole for saying that. And they just don't reflect, and they're not willing to admit that they were lied to and that they were wrong. And listen, man, as long as you leave me alone, you can be of that breed. It's not gonna serve you any good, and the world's gonna move right by you. But like the ones that I have a problem with are the ones that like want to enforce the fact that they still think that they're right on you when they obviously are wrong. Yeah. Obviously they're wrong. So like, look, I don't think I have anybody to apologize to, but I've been wrong about stuff, and you know me personally, and anybody who knows me personally knows I would be the first motherfucker to be like, damn, I was so stupid about that shit, and self-correct, because I think it's so liberating to finally say that you were wrong about something. So you don't have to carry that shit anymore. Right?
Exactly. It actually lifts the weight off your shoulders.
100%.
You can breathe easier.
Yeah.
You can live. You can think.
Yeah.
Because you're not tied up in this, moral quandary, and you actually feel like you've resolved something within yourself, and you brought closure to something that is quite literally eating you alive, and you don't even know it. And now we're getting all
I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in here.
Philosophical.
We won't even get into our next topic.
Yeah,
we'll say that, but I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in here, and this is a theoretical monkey wrench.
I love it.
Keep that same energy. If you found out that you were wrong about Bitcoin, would you have that energy?
That is a tough pill to swallow, but I would have to do it, because if you don't, like, the longer you stay and longer that information gets found out by more and more people, the worse life off gets for you. Fortunately, though, it don't look to be playing that way. As a matter of fact,
that's what I said theoretically.
As a matter of fact, I escaped the black hole of fiat financial world at exactly the right time, achieved escape velocity, and I'm fucking flying high now, man.
I'm gonna tell you what, I don't think they're all theoretical, but like if I were to find out that Bitcoin was not what Bitcoin is supposed to be or what I believe it is, I think I might be one of those people that still wear the mask. I think I still might just stay hooked on Bitcoin. Yeah. And I know I just said that I'm a self-correcting person and all that.
Even though it's an irrational decision to do so. Well, that's I guess that's another thing. Like, I think admitting and knowing are two different things.
Well, I think it's this. In the unique case of Bitcoin, it wouldn't be like sunk cost bias or anything. It would just be the thoughts of having to return to fiat, right? Like the thought that like all we have is fiat would just keep me in like this like universe of like fuck that, right? Like in every other,
I mean, I'm there already personally.
That's what I mean.
So.
Like if you tell me like if like tomorrow the block subsidy would go up to like 21 Bitcoin or something like that, and we're like, oh, consensus is broken. Like this is all nonsense.
Well, then we got to do a nuclear hard fork, man, and we got to change the hashing algorithm, steal Ethereum Classics hash or whatever, like. No, I had forgotten about this a long time ago, and it was only recently.
Say go steal Ethereum.
Yeah, dude. No, it's you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It's
just the thought of that is funny. Like, hey man, we hate you guys, but in this scenario, we're gonna need your help here.
Well, here's a gift to them. This is your second chance in life.
Sure,
you could do things right again.
Yeah, they're gonna laugh you in your face. They're gonna be like, all right, Bitcoiner, go.
Yeah, your chain is broken and dying. No one's coming. Just repurpose your machines. We will join you. We will spin this new thing up, and we're gonna win this war twice. Like that would be the mentality.
After all the years of all dunking on them,
it's do that or die, and it wouldn't be friendly and it wouldn't be fun, but we would get through it.
They're gonna be bad bitter. Yeah, you guys dunked on us for all these years, and now
fine. Maybe we'll go after Litecoin instead. There's just so few proof of work stuff out there.
I just like once again, I always want to admit I'm wrong, but like if it's like fiat or bust, man, I might just be in denial. I might just stay in denial forever, bro.
I have said this before.
I'll keep stacking sats even if it's a rally list.
I'm never going back to my old life.
Nah, dude.
So to answer that question, I guess like I would find something new, or I would be like you, one of those two. But fiat is not in the equation.
That's what I mean. Like, and that's why I brought it up. Like in theoretical, of course, because obviously day after day, Bitcoin is proven.
I guess there's always gold, right?
Maybe.
No meteors have crashed into Earth yet. You know, we haven't space mined asteroids. Like that could be the consolation prize.
I don't think I've been to the gun range enough to hold gold.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's your store value. Just acquire guns and sell those over time because those keep going up too.
For sure, that's gonna be it. But like, yeah, that's
your store value has to change. It won't be houses. None of us are gonna be real estate moguls after this.
Nah, definitely not. Especially if we listen or watch everything through the Bitcoin only lens.
Yeah.
And to wrap this up, thanks Joe for always giving some thought-provoking content, because I know what he's trying to say and I don't think he's wrong. But if you view everything under the orange Bitcoin lens, of course everything goes to zero.
Words matter, and he used the term investment. So
sure.
I think that is we're arguing against the financial aspect and not so much the utilitarian aspect of it.
Fair. So two things can be right. He's right, but I don't feel too bad about closing on my home, and I don't feel bad about the direction of that. And I think Lynn's point is very solid too. A lot of people don't really think about the equity side of things. That is kind of what you're doing whenever it is that you pay a mortgage payment. You're pretty much just putting money away. Now,
very small amounts.
Sure, and
like probably like a quarter of your payment is actually going into equity.
And it's probably melting faster than it's worth anything. But hey, man, maybe 3-4 years down the road, you can convince some other sucker to buy it for 2 extra prices, man. Sure. Right? Yeah. Because, I mean, people who have assets do that. That's kind of what it is. Like, you buy it before everybody else knows about it, and then it goes up. Money printing goes up. And
honestly, Jose, we're going to be selling our houses to the people who found out about Bitcoin later than us. That's who we're going to be selling our houses to.
I'm going to be taking their Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But anyways, that wraps up another great episode. I think these talks are extremely fascinating. I think the real estate convo is like predates Bitcoin. There's always people that say it's a bad investment. There's always people that have built wealth on it. The majority of wealthiest people in the world have a shitload of real estate, including the evil ones like BlackRock. Right? Like, so it depends on what your story is, depends on what lens you're watching this stuff in, and depends on what your plan and intentions are. Timing is another part of it. But there's no doubt having assets is greater than having dollars.
100%. Every time.
And anybody who wants to combat that probably has no idea how this works.
Definitely has no idea how any of this works.
And hey, if y'all listening, shout out to y'all. I grew up with many of these guys. And I'm sure they're still under the same mindset. Trust me. A lot of people, maybe we take it for granted, a lot of people don't understand that holding money is a bad idea.
Yep.
Matter of fact, contrary to that, a lot of people want to hold a lot of money and feel that that's success. So this episode's for y'all.
Aspire to wake up with red numbers in your bank account.
Or none, if you can afford it.
Or no bank app at all.
Absolutely. And do some information. We don't advise any financial shit. But anyways, that wraps up another great episode, Kev. Appreciate you as always. We'll save that topic for the next week's episode. It is a pretty interesting topic in itself. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think I would become a real estate mogul after today, but now it is clear my life mission.
Yeah, we might be wrong. It'd be the worst move we ever make. But I think the next combo is just gonna always end up if you're on Dorsey camp or not.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy. But we'll have that conversation next week. We appreciate y'all for listening. You guys know where to find us, all Podcasting 2.0 platforms, whether it's on the web browser, whether it's on Fountain, whether it's on any other place that you listen to podcasts. Even if it's not Podcasting 2.0, we appreciate the support. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about Talking in Bits, and that's how we keep this thing moving and growing. Kev, once again, appreciate you, good sir. We'll see y'all next time.
See y'all.